Sister sold her house for a dream vacation. Now my parents want her family to move into my place. So I've got this house, right? Been living here for the last 10 years, paying it off bit by bit, and finally I can say it's mine. It's nothing fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom place, but man, it's mine. You know that feeling when you've worked your butt off for something, and you can finally just sit there and think, yeah, I did that? That's where I'm at. I don't have any fancy decor or big backyard, but it's a good spot, comfortable, quiet, and most importantly, it's my space. It's where I can just chill without any stress. Then there's my sister, Jenny. She's 29, married to this guy, Alex, who's 31. They're what you'd call the free spirit types. You know the kind, the ones who are always talking about how everyone else is wasting their life in the grind, working boring 9 to 5s while they live their best life or whatever. They've always been like that, ever since they got together, always planning some big, dramatic escape from the rat race. Honestly, I didn't think they'd ever actually do it. I mean, everyone has these dreams of quitting their job and traveling the world, right? It's like a phase you grow out of when you realize bills exist. But not Jenny and Alex. Oh no, they're the kind of people who actually went through with it. They sold their house, their actual home where their 2 kids, Emma and Lucas, have lived their entire lives, and decided they were going to travel the world for a year. Yeah, you heard that right. They sold everything for a dream vacation, thinking the market was booming and they'd made bank off the sale. They figured they'd use the money to live off, work odd jobs here and there, and stretch it out for a whole year, just going from place to place. So I'm watching this all unfold from my little house, and I'm thinking, okay, cool for them, but also, this is a bad idea. They've got 2 kids to take care of. Emma's 7 and Lucas is 5. And traveling with kids isn't like backpacking through Europe on a whim. There's planning involved. But they just waved it all off, saying they'd figure it out along the way. And I'm like, all right, whatever. It's your life. Fast forward a couple of months, and I'm chilling in my house, probably watching TV or something, when I get a call from Jenny. Now, I haven't heard much from her since they left. Just the occasional Instagram post about how amazing life is, and some pictures of them eating weird food in random places. So I figure this call is going to be one of those, like she's going to brag about how awesome everything is. But the second I pick up, I can tell something's off. Jenny sounds stressed, really stressed, and she starts talking about how things didn't go as planned. Apparently, they blew through their money way faster than they expected. Like, within 2 months, they were pretty much broke. Turns out, traveling the world is expensive. Who knew, right? They stayed in nice places, ate out at restaurants, and just lived it up like they had endless cash. But when you're not working and still spending, that money doesn't last long, especially with 2 kids. Hostels and cheap Airbnbs are all fun and games until you've got 2 tired, hungry kids who need a stable place to crash every night. Now they're stuck. They can't keep traveling because they've got no funds, but they also don't want to settle down and buy another house yet. So, guess what? They ask if they can move in with me. Yep, Jenny, Alex, and their 2 kids, all in my 3-bedroom house. Forget this, 10 months. And here's the kicker. They want to stay rent-free. They didn't even offer to contribute. Just a straight up, hey, can we live with you for almost a year while we figure things out? I've got to admit, I didn't know how to respond at first. I mean, it's my sister, and yeah, I care about her, but this is my house, my space. I didn't work my butt off for 10 years just to let 4 extra people come in and take over the place. Plus, I've got a routine, you know? I like my peace and quiet. I can't even imagine what my house would be like with 2 little kids running around. Not to mention the mess. So I tell her, look, Jenny, I love you guys, but this just isn't going to work. The house is too small, and I don't want that kind of disruption. I even offered to help them find an affordable rental nearby or pitch in some cash for a couple of months to help them get back on their feet. But no, that wasn't enough. Jenny gets pissed. Like immediately. She starts calling me selfish, saying I don't care about family and that I'm jealous of their adventurous lifestyle. Jealous? Really? Now I'm starting to get mad too. It's not about jealousy or not caring about family. It's about boundaries. I don't owe them a place to live just because they made some dumb decisions and didn't think things through. I get that life doesn't always go as planned, but they sold their house without having a backup plan, and now they want to dump the consequences on me. And here's where it gets even better. After Jenny blows up at me, she gets our parents involved. Now, my parents live in a tiny apartment, so they can't take in Jenny's family. But instead of understanding my side, they start pushing me to let them move in. My mom starts going on about how family helps family, and that I should be more understanding of Jenny and Alex's situation. She tells me I don't understand the value of experiences and that I should be supportive. Supportive? I offered them support. I offered to help them find a rental or cover part of their expenses for a couple of months. But that's not enough. They want the whole package: free rent, my house, and my space for almost a year. And the worst part is, they're not even planning to settle down. They're still talking about taking occasional trips if they find cheap deals. So basically, they want to live in my house, rent-free, while still being free-spirited travelers whenever they feel like it. How does that make any sense? So now, I'm sitting here, trying to figure out how to deal with the fallout. Jenny's not talking to me, my parents are mad at me, and even some of our mutual friends are saying I'm being too harsh. But I don't think I'm in the wrong here. It's not like I'm kicking them when they're down. I offered to help in other ways. I just don't want them living in my house rent-free for 10 months. All right, so after that first awkward phone call with my sister Jenny, I kind of figured things were going to get weird. But I wasn't ready for just how messy it was about to become. I was thinking maybe I could just put my foot down, tell her no, and that'd be the end of it. You know, just draw the line and move on. But nope. Jenny and Alex decided to show up at my house, in person, like a week later. They didn't even give me a heads up, which already had me feeling off. So I'm just doing my usual thing on a Saturday morning, enjoying the quiet, when the doorbell rings. I open it, and there's Jenny standing there with Alex and the kids. They've got this big, hopeful look on their faces, like I'm about to save the day or something. Meanwhile, I'm just thinking, oh man, here we go. I mean, I knew what they were going to ask, but I didn't expect it to be like this. Them just rolling up like it's a done deal. Jenny starts off with small talk, asking how I'm doing, how work's going, all that, but I can feel the tension in the air. I know they're not here just to chat. It's like that moment where someone's clearly buttering you up for something big, and I'm just standing there trying to stay polite, but also bracing myself for what's coming. Finally, after what feels like forever, Alex clears his throat and jumps in. He's like, "So, Brian, we've been thinking about what you said on the phone." And then Jenny takes over, because of course she's the one running the show in their relationship. She's all like, "We know you said you didn't think having us live here would work out, but we really believe we can make it work. It's just 10 months. We won't be any trouble. The kids are good, they'll stay out of your way, and we'll keep everything clean." I just stand there for a second, not sure how to respond, because, let's be real, there's no way two little kids are going to stay out of my way in a house this size. And the idea that they're just going to magically not disrupt my life? Yeah, that's not happening. I try to stay calm, though. I don't want to blow up right away, so I ask, what's the plan, though? I mean, what happens after the 10 months? Are you going to get another house? What about work? Jenny and Alex glance at each other like they haven't really thought this through. Then Jenny goes, "We're still figuring that part out. We might go back to traveling if things work out. We've been checking for cheap flight deals, and there's a chance we could get back on the road by the end of the year. We just need a place to regroup, you know? Somewhere to stay while we figure out our next move." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So not only do they want to crash at my place for 10 months, but they're also still talking about taking more trips? Like, really? You're broke, you've got 2 kids, and your big plan is to keep living this fantasy life where you're just floating around from place to place. I didn't even know what to say. I mean, where's the logic in that? So I try to be as polite as possible, and I tell them, "Look, I understand you guys are in a tough spot, but I'm really not comfortable with this. It's not about not wanting to help you out, it's just that my house isn't set up for that. I've got my own routine, and honestly, I don't think having you all here for 10 months would work for anyone. The house is too small, and there's just not enough space." That's when Jenny's face changes. She goes from hopeful to pissed in about 2 seconds flat. "Are you serious?" she says, crossing her arms. "We're family, Brian. Family helps each other out. You've got all this space, and it's just you living here. What's the big deal?" Now, I'm starting to get frustrated. I mean, I get it, they're stressed, but this whole thing is starting to feel like they think they're entitled to my space just because we share the same blood. I try to stay calm and explain, "It's not just about space, Jenny. It's about my life, too. I've worked really hard to get this house, and I need my own peace and quiet. I'm happy to help you in other ways, but having you all live here for almost a year? I just don't see that working." Alex finally jumps in, probably sensing that things are getting heated. He's trying to play peacemaker, saying, "Maybe we can work something out. What if we helped around the house? We could do chores, cook meals, whatever you need, and we'll be out during the day. You won't even notice we're here." But here's the thing. Of course I'd notice. 4 extra people living in my house? Yeah, I'm definitely going to notice. Plus, the idea of them being out during the day doesn't make any sense. They've got 2 small kids. Where are they even going to go? They're broke. It's not like they can afford to just take the kids on daily outings. I shake my head and say, "I appreciate the offer, but no. I just can't do it. I'm sorry." And that's when Jenny loses it. She starts ranting about how I've always been stingy and how I don't understand what it means to really live. She says I've never taken any risks, that I'm just a boring guy with a boring life, and that I'm probably jealous of their adventurous lifestyle. Yeah, she went there. Now I'm pissed. But I try not to let it show. I just say, Jenny, this isn't about me being jealous or anything like that. It's about boundaries. You guys made your choice to sell your house and live this lifestyle. That's fine, but now you're asking me to take responsibility for it, and that's not fair. She's not having it. We wouldn't be asking if we had any other option. You think we want to be here begging for help? No. But this is what family does, Brian. They help each other out when things get tough. I thought you, of all people, would get that. At this point, Alex just looks uncomfortable. He's not saying much anymore, just staring at the floor while Jenny continues to rant about how I'm selfish and heartless. She's talking about how they're inspired by their travels and how they don't want to settle for the typical suburban life. And all I can think is, yeah, but you need money for all of that, don't you? Finally, I just say, look, I'm sorry, but my answer is still no. I can't have you guys living here. It's just not going to work. They storm out after that, Jenny muttering something about how they'll figure it out without my help. And honestly, I'm relieved. I didn't want to keep arguing, but I can already tell this isn't the end of it. And yeah, it wasn't, because after they left, things escalated way more than I expected. Update 1. So after Jenny and Alex stormed out of my place, I thought that was the end of it. You know, like maybe they'd cool off, come to their senses, and realize that they're the ones who screwed up. But man, was I wrong. A couple of days later, the real fallout began. I'm sitting at home, enjoying my usual routine, when I get a call from my mom. Now, normally when my mom calls, it's just to check in or ask me if I've been eating enough vegetables. Seriously. But I could tell right away that this call wasn't going to be one of those. She starts off with, Brian, I need to talk to you about Jenny. And that's when I know I'm in for a ride. Apparently, Jenny went straight to our parents after leaving my house. She gave them her whole sob story about how I refused to help them when they were down and out, and of course, she framed it in a way that made me look like the bad guy. My mom's voice is all disappointed, like I kicked a puppy or something, and she goes, I don't understand why you wouldn't help your sister, Brian. They're in a tough spot, and family's supposed to help each other. I try to keep calm, but inside I'm already annoyed. I explained to her what really happened, how I offered to help them find a rental, even give them some money to get back on their feet, but they just wanted to move in with me for 10 months, rent-free. I tell her how their whole plan was ridiculous, how they blew all their money without thinking things through, and now they expect me to bail them out. But my mom, of course, doesn't see it that way. They made a mistake, Brian, but they're still family. You have the space. It wouldn't be forever, just long enough for them to figure things out. Here's the thing, though. My mom's got this way of guilting you without even meaning to. She's not mean or anything, but she's always dropping these little comments that make you feel like you're failing at being a good son or brother. It's exhausting. But this time, I wasn't having it. I told her straight up, Mom, I'm not doing it. I love Jenny, but she and Alex need to take responsibility for their choices. It's not my job to let them crash at my place because they didn't plan. She doesn't like that answer, but she lets it go, for now. I think we're done with the conversation, but oh no, it's just getting started. Because the next day, my dad calls. Now, my dad's a different story. He's not the guilt trip type. He's more the tough love type, which means when he's mad, you hear about it. He gets straight to the point, no sugarcoating. Brian, he says, I hear you've been giving your sister a hard time. I try to explain myself again, but he cuts me off, going on about how I'm being selfish and how I've always been the one who has it easy. Yeah, right. Like working my butt off for 10 years to pay off this house is easy. He starts ranting about how Jenny's always been the one taking risks, living her life to the fullest, and I'm just sitting here comfortable, not doing anything exciting. He's basically saying I'm being a coward for not letting them stay, like I'm some kind of stick in the mud who doesn't understand what it's like to really live. At this point, I'm getting heated. I tell him, Dad, this isn't about being adventurous or not. It's about them making a bad decision and expecting me to clean it up. I worked hard for this house, and I'm not going to let them come in and take advantage of that. But he's not hearing it. He keeps going on about how I'm the one who's in the position to help, and how I'm failing as a brother by not stepping up. It's like he's taking everything Jenny said and running with it, making me out to be the bad guy in this whole situation. And honestly, that hurts. I've always been the responsible one in the family, the one who's worked hard, kept my head down, and did what I needed to do. But now it feels like none of that matters. After that call, I'm fuming. I feel like I'm getting attacked from all sides. My parents are both mad at me, and Jenny's probably out there telling everyone I'm a heartless jerk. And guess what? That's exactly what's happening. A few hours later, I get a message from one of our mutual friends. Let's call him Tom. Tom's a good guy, but he's also friends with Jenny, so he's heard her side of the story. He texts me, "Hey man, what's going on with you and Jenny? She says you're not letting her family stay with you even though they're in trouble." I explain my side to him, how it's not that simple, how they're asking for way too much, and how I've already offered other ways to help. And Tom, being the reasonable guy he is, listens. But then he hits me with, "Yeah, but it's just for a little while, right? You could tough it out for 10 months. It's family, dude." And now I'm just done. It's like everyone's forgotten that I have a right to say no. Like my house isn't even mine anymore. It's just a resource that everyone thinks they're entitled to. I'm frustrated because no matter how I explain it, everyone seems to think I'm being unreasonable. They all keep acting like it's no big deal for me to let a whole family move in and turn my life upside down for almost a year. Then the final blow comes when Jenny herself texts me. It's not a long message, but it hits hard. She just says, "I can't believe you've turned your back on us. We really needed you." Now I'm sitting there staring at my phone, feeling torn. Part of me feels guilty, like maybe I should have just given in to avoid all this drama. But another part of me is still standing firm. I know I'm not in the wrong here. It's not my fault they made bad choices, and it's not fair for them to dump their problems on me just because I have a house. Still, the guilt is eating away at me, and I'm starting to wonder if I could have handled things differently. Maybe I should have been softer in my response. Maybe I should have been more understanding. But at the same time, I know that giving in would have just enabled them to keep making these reckless decisions, thinking they can always rely on someone else to fix things. So, yeah, now I'm stuck. My parents are mad at me, Jenny's pissed, and even some of our friends are questioning whether I did the right thing. And me? I'm just trying to hold on to the fact that I set a boundary for myself, even though it feels like the whole world is telling me I'm wrong for doing it. But this is far from over, because as much as I want to just walk away from all the drama, Jenny isn't done yet. Update 2. All right, so after all the phone calls and texts, I'm thinking maybe things will just blow over if I ignore it for a bit. Maybe Jenny and my parents will calm down, realize I'm not the bad guy here, and we can all move on. But no, things didn't settle down. They escalated. Big time. It starts with my mom. She's still trying to play the mediator, calling me every couple of days, always saying, "Brian, you've got to help your sister. You don't know what it's like to be in her shoes. She's struggling. She's got kids." It's the same thing over and over. And every time I have to remind her that it's not about me not wanting to help. It's about how much they're asking. It's not like they're in danger of being homeless on the street. I offered help in other ways, but apparently nothing I say seems to get through. Then one evening, I get a knock on my door. It's Jenny and Alex. No text or call beforehand, just showed up like everything's normal. I open the door, and there they are, standing there with these tired, desperate looks on their faces, the kids holding onto Jenny's legs. I can tell right away this is about to be awkward. Jenny's holding some papers in her hand, and I'm already feeling that sinking feeling in my stomach, like I'm about to be dragged into something bigger than I expected. Jenny doesn't waste any time. "Brian, we need you to reconsider. This is serious. We've looked everywhere, and there's nowhere affordable for us to stay. The rentals are too expensive, and we don't have the money to even put down a deposit." She waves the papers in front of me. They're printouts of apartment listings, most of them crossed out with red ink. I glance at them for a second, but I'm already thinking about how I'm going to respond. I'm not in the mood to argue, but it's clear they're not taking no for an answer. Before I can say anything, Alex speaks up, and this time, he's not the calm, quiet guy from before. He's frustrated, almost angry. "We've tried everything, Brian. We're out of options. You've got this house all to yourself, and you're just sitting on it while we're struggling. You really can't let us stay for a little while?" Now, I'm getting irritated. I've already had this conversation a dozen times, and every time I say no, they just keep pushing. So I say, "I've told you guys before, I'm not comfortable with having 4 extra people in my house for nearly a year. I offered to help you find something else. I even offered money, but you're not listening. I can't let you move in. That's final." But Jenny, she's not backing down this time. She steps closer, and now her voice is shaking, like she's on the verge of tears. "Brian, we have nowhere else to go. The kids are exhausted. We're exhausted. We're not asking for much, just a roof over our heads for a little while. We'll pay you back when we get back on our feet. Please, you're our last hope." I look at the kids, Emma and Lucas, and they're just standing there looking confused. They probably don't understand what's going on, and honestly, that makes me feel like crap. It's not their fault their parents made bad choices. But I can't let that guilt trip me into making a decision I'm going to regret. I've got to stand firm, or else this whole situation is going to turn my life upside down. So, I take a deep breath and say, I'm sorry, but I can't. I know it's hard, but this isn't the answer. You need to find another solution. And that's when Jenny snaps. She goes from sad to furious in a split second. You're unbelievable, she yells, her voice echoing in the hallway. You're just sitting here, living comfortably, while your own family is suffering. I can't believe how heartless you've become. You've changed, Brian. You're not the brother I grew up with. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I'm too angry to let them sink in. I fire back. I haven't changed. You're the one who's acting entitled, thinking you can just show up and expect me to bail you out because you didn't plan ahead. I didn't make this mess. You did, and now you want me to fix it for you. That's not how this works. The argument spirals from there. Alex jumps in saying I've always been the selfish one in the family, that I've never been there for them when they needed me. He's bringing up stuff from years ago, random things that don't even matter anymore, like how I didn't lend him money for some side business idea he had back in the day. It's like they've been holding on to all this resentment, waiting for the perfect moment to throw it in my face. At this point, we're all shouting over each other and the kids are crying. It's a disaster. I'm standing in my own doorway getting accused of being the worst brother on the planet, and all I can think is, how did it get to this? Finally, I just say, enough. This is my house and I've made my decision. I'm not changing my mind. Now, I think you need to leave. Jenny looks at me like she can't believe what she's hearing. She opens her mouth to say something, but then she just shakes her head, grabs the kids, and storms off. Alex follows behind her, glaring at me like I'm the devil or something. As they walk away, I feel a weird mix of anger, guilt, and relief. I know I did the right thing by standing my ground, but it still sucks that it had to come to this. I watch them get into their car and drive off, and for a minute, I just stand there, wondering what's going to happen next. I can't help but think that this isn't the end of it, that there's more drama on the way. And guess what? I was right. Because later that night, my phone blows up with messages from family members. Turns out, Jenny went full-on drama mode and told everyone what happened. She's making it sound like I kicked them out into the streets, like they've got nowhere to go, and I'm sitting here laughing about it. My aunt, my cousins, everyone is texting me, saying stuff like, how could you do this to Jenny and the kids? You've got a big house and they just need a place to stay. It's like they've all bought into this story that I'm some kind of villain hoarding my house while my sister suffers. And no matter how many times I try to explain my side, no one's listening. They're all just repeating the same thing. Family helps family. By the end of the night, I'm exhausted. I've spent hours defending myself, but it feels like no one cares. Jenny's managed to turn everyone against me, and now I'm the bad guy in this whole mess. But here's the thing. I'm still not budging. I'm not going to let them guilt me into doing something that's going to make my life miserable. I know I did the right thing, even if no one else sees it that way. I just have to figure out how to survive the fallout. Update 3. So after the whole family explosion and the messages coming at me from all angles, I was ready to just disconnect for a while, like turn my phone off, lock the doors, and wait for the storm to pass. But no, of course, things weren't going to calm down. If anything, they were about to hit a whole new level of ridiculous. A couple of days go by, and I haven't heard directly from Jenny or Alex, which I guess should have been a relief, but honestly, it made me feel like something big was brewing. You know that quiet before a big argument? That's what it felt like. I could just tell that they weren't done with me yet. Sure enough, one morning I wake up to find this massive post on Facebook that Jenny wrote. And of course, it's public, so everyone and their dog can see it. She's going off about how some people in the family, obviously me, have abandoned her in her time of need, how she and her kids are basically one step away from being homeless, and how all they wanted was a little support from someone who's in a position of privilege. The post is full of dramatic language, talking about how certain family members are selfish and don't understand the importance of helping each other out when things get tough. And yeah, the comment section, it's a total mess. People are jumping in, saying how heartless it is to turn away family, how they can't believe someone would do that to their own sister. I'm reading all this and just feeling my blood boil because these people don't even know half the story. They're just eating up whatever Jenny is feeding them, and suddenly I'm public enemy number one. What's worse is that a bunch of our extended family is in the comments too. My aunt, who I haven't spoken to in years, is chiming in with, I always knew Brian was selfish. Like this is some known fact about me. My cousins are sharing the post and suddenly I'm getting notifications left and right about how I need to step up and do the right thing. At this point, I'm fuming. I try to calm down and think rationally, but the more I scroll through the comments, the angrier I get. It's like no matter how much I've explained my side to people, Jenny's managed to twist the story so that I look like the villain. And honestly, it's working. I'm losing the public battle here. So I make a decision. I'm not usually the type to air my dirty laundry online, but this has gone too far. If Jenny's going to drag me through the mud on Facebook, I'm going to set the record straight. I type out a long post in response, explaining my side of the story, how I offered to help Jenny and Alex in other ways, how they're the ones who demanded to live rent-free for nearly a year, and how I simply can't accommodate them because it's unreasonable. I mention that they've been irresponsible with their money, that they've been trying to guilt-trip me into giving up my house, and how this whole situation is their fault, not mine. I hit post and wait. And man, did the fireworks start. Immediately, people are commenting on my post, some siding with me saying it's not my responsibility to take in Jenny and her family. Others, of course, are still backing Jenny, saying I'm being too harsh and that family should stick together no matter what. It's turning into this full-blown argument in the comments section, with people going back and forth, defending one side or the other. Jenny, of course, sees my post and flips out. She starts messaging me directly, calling me every name in the book, selfish, heartless, arrogant. She says I'm destroying the family, and that she can't believe I would embarrass her like this in front of everyone. The irony of her saying that after she dragged me publicly first is just too much. I try to keep my cool and respond calmly. I tell her that she left me no choice, that I had to defend myself after she blasted me on Facebook. But she's not hearing any of it. She's too wrapped up in her own narrative, convinced that she's the victim here. Eventually, she blocks me on Facebook like we're teenagers or something, which is honestly fine by me. Less drama I have to deal with. But just when I think things might finally start to die down, I get a call from my dad. Here we go again, right? He's not yelling this time, but his voice is low and serious, which is worse in a way. He's disappointed. He says he saw the whole thing on Facebook, and he's upset that I took it public. He's mad that I didn't just handle it privately, and that now the whole family is divided. I can tell he's blaming me for making the situation worse, but I try to explain that I was backed into a corner, that Jenny started this whole thing by attacking me first. But no matter what I say, he's not happy. He starts talking about how I need to make things right, how family is the most important thing, and how it's not too late to offer Jenny and Alex a place to stay. He says if I do that, maybe things can go back to normal. And here's where I finally snap. I tell him, Dad, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to let them live with me, and I'm done apologizing for it. I've done nothing wrong. They made their choices, and now they have to deal with the consequences. I'm not their safety net, and it's not my job to fix their problems. He goes quiet for a moment, and I can tell he's shocked. I don't usually stand up to him like this, but I'm done. I'm not going to let them guilt me into doing something I don't want to do just to keep the peace. Finally, he sighs and says, I hope you know what you're doing, Brian. Then he hangs up. After that, things go quiet. Jenny still blocked me on social media, and my parents aren't really talking to me either. It feels like the whole family is in this weird, tense standoff, waiting for someone to make the next move. But here's the thing. I'm not making the next move. I've done my part. I've stood my ground, and I'm not backing down. It sucks that things had to turn out this way. I never wanted to fight with my family, but at the same time, I know I did the right thing. I set a boundary, and I stuck to it, even when it felt like the whole world was against me. And yeah, maybe the family dynamic is messed up now, and maybe things won't go back to the way they were. But honestly, I'm okay with that, because at least I know I'm living on my own terms in my own house without anyone trying to guilt me into giving that up. And that for me is worth all the drama in the world. Stepsister lied, told my parents I'm a prostitute. I kicked her from my wedding and cut off my parents. So this all started when I was 17, and I had no idea that one family vacation would basically ruin my life. It sounds dramatic, but trust me, this isn't one of those situations where it's just a little sibling rivalry. This was the moment where my relationship with my family started to fall apart, thanks to my stepsister Leah. She was 14 at the time, and we had never really been close. Like, I wouldn't say we hated each other before, but we just didn't vibe, you know? So we're on this family trip to a beach resort. It's supposed to be one of those nice, relaxing vacations, except for the fact that I'm forced to share a room with Leah. I didn't have a choice, and I wasn't thrilled about it, but I figured, whatever, I'll survive. I was wrong. Big time. Leah had this attitude like she was better than everyone else. Maybe it's because she was the baby of the family, or maybe she was just like that. But either way, she was always the golden child in my dad and stepmom's eyes. Meanwhile, I was just there. Not like the black sheep, more like the forgotten sheep. They didn't hate me, but they didn't really care either. You know the type. Anyway, after a couple of days of pretending to be civil, Leah and I had a huge argument. I don't even remember how it started. It was probably something stupid, like me borrowing her hairbrush without asking or her hogging the bathroom, but it escalated fast. Before I knew it, we were screaming at each other, and she threw a pillow at me like a 10-year-old having a tantrum. After that, she completely iced me out. For the rest of the trip, Leah didn't say a word to me. No good morning, no pass the sunscreen, nothing. She literally acted like I didn't exist. And honestly, I was fine with that. I thought, cool, I don't have to deal with her. But the silence didn't stop when we got home. She kept ignoring me, like full on pretending I wasn't there. And at first, it was just kind of weird. I figured she'd get over it after a while. I mean, she's 14, right? She can't stay mad forever. Wrong again. Things started getting really strange when she began spreading rumors about me. I didn't know it at the time, but apparently Leah had been telling our stepmom and my dad that I was, get this, a drug addict and a prostitute. Yeah, you read that right. She said I was selling my body for money and that I was hooked on drugs. And you know what the worst part is? They believed her. I didn't find out until a few months later, but by then, the damage was already done. Leah had convinced them that I was this total screw-up, and my dad and stepmom were starting to treat me differently. They wouldn't outright say anything, but I could tell by the way they acted. They were distant, cold, judgy. My dad would barely look at me, and my stepmom started watching me like a hawk every time I left the house. At first, I had no idea why they were acting like that. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Yeah, I had smoked weed a couple of times at parties, but it wasn't like I was some drug addict. And I'd gone on a couple of dates, sure, but I wasn't doing anything remotely close to what Leah was accusing me of. But no matter how hard I tried to act normal, my parents were convinced I was this terrible, rebellious teenager. It all came to a head one night when my dad confronted me. I was just sitting in my room, minding my business, when he barged in and started yelling at me about how I was ruining the family and how I needed to get my life together. I had no idea what he was talking about, so I asked him, and that's when he dropped the bomb. He told me that Leah had confessed to seeing me sneaking out at night, meeting random guys and doing drugs. My first reaction was to laugh because it sounded so ridiculous. Like, was he serious? But he wasn't laughing. He was dead serious, and the angrier he got, the more I realized this wasn't just some misunderstanding. He actually believed her. I tried to defend myself. I tried to tell him it wasn't true, that Leah was lying, but he didn't want to hear it. He told me I was disrespecting my family and that I needed to shape up, or I'd end up getting kicked out. That's when I realized it didn't matter what I said. He was never going to believe me. Leah had poisoned their minds against me, and there was nothing I could do to fix it. Things only got worse from there. My stepmom started treating me like I was some criminal. She'd go through my stuff when I wasn't home, looking for drugs or evidence of whatever Leah had told her. I felt like I was being watched 24/7, and it made me paranoid. Every time I came home, I wondered if this was the day they'd finally kick me out. Leah, meanwhile, acted like nothing was wrong. She'd still ignore me, but every once in a while, I'd catch her smirking at me, like she was proud of what she'd done. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea why she was doing this to me, but I knew one thing. I couldn't trust her. It didn't take long before I started to spiral. I mean, how could I not? My whole family thought I was some degenerate, and I had no one on my side. I started to isolate myself, staying in my room as much as possible, trying to avoid my dad and stepmom. I didn't have a lot of friends at the time, so I didn't really have anyone to talk to about what was happening. I felt completely alone. Looking back, I should have left sooner. I should have just packed my bags and gotten the hell out of there. But I was scared. I didn't have anywhere to go, and I was still in school trying to finish up my last year. So I stayed, hoping that somehow things would get better. But they didn't. They only got worse. Okay, so after Leah started that whole rumor about me being a prostitute and a drug addict, everything spiraled. Like, it wasn't enough that my parents basically turned their backs on me. They fully believed her without even questioning it. My dad, who I thought would at least ask me what was going on, didn't even try. He just went straight to lecturing me every chance he got, talking about how I was going to ruin my life and how I was a disappointment. I tried everything. I tried sitting them down, explaining that Leah was lying, that none of this was true. But no matter what I said, they wouldn't hear it. My stepmom even said, "Why would Leah lie? What does she have to gain from this?" And at that point, I had no answer. I didn't know why Leah was doing this. I just knew that she was ruining my life for reasons I couldn't figure out. The weirdest part? Leah wouldn't stop smirking at me every time she walked past. It was like she enjoyed watching me suffer. She knew she had my parents wrapped around her finger and she used it. I don't know how or when it started, but she knew exactly how to manipulate them. And the more I tried to stand up for myself, the more they doubled down on their belief that I was the problem. It got to a point where I just stopped talking. Like, what was the point? They weren't going to believe me, so why even bother trying to explain myself? I'd come home from school, go straight to my room, and try to stay out of their way. I started feeling like a stranger in my own house, and honestly, I didn't even know if I wanted to stay there anymore. But at 17, where was I supposed to go? I didn't have friends I could crash with, and I didn't have any money saved up because my dad would take a chunk of my part-time job paycheck for living expenses. Then came the breaking point. One night, I got home later than usual because I had stayed late at school to finish a project. As soon as I walked in the door, my dad was there waiting for me, looking like he was ready to explode. Without even letting me get a word out, he started yelling, "Where were you? What the hell do you think you're doing, sneaking around like that?" I was confused, like completely blindsided. I told him I was working on a school project, but he didn't believe me. He went on this whole rant about how he knew I was lying and that Leah had told him she saw me sneaking out with some guy earlier. That's when I lost it. I mean, how many more lies was she going to tell? How much more damage could she do before they'd finally see what was really going on? I yelled back, told him that Leah was full of it, that she was making everything up just to mess with me. But my dad wasn't having it. He got right up in my face, and for the first time, I really thought he was going to hit me. His fists were clenched, and he was shaking with anger, like he was on the edge of losing control. I don't even remember what I said next, but whatever it was, it pushed him over the edge. He raised his hand like he was about to hit me, but instead, he slammed it down on the kitchen counter so hard I thought he broke something. "Get out of my house," he said, his voice so low and calm that it was even scarier than when he was yelling. "I can't even look at you anymore. You're a disgrace." I stood there for a second, trying to process what just happened. Was he really kicking me out? Just like that? Over a bunch of lies? I ran upstairs, grabbed a few things, and left without even saying anything to Leah. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't give her the satisfaction. All I could think about was how this kid, this 14-year-old kid, had completely turned my life upside down, and there was nothing I could do about it. I ended up crashing at a friend's place for a few days. They didn't know the full story, but they knew enough to let me stay for a bit while I figured things out. My dad didn't call. My stepmom didn't call. And Leah? She definitely didn't call. It was like they just erased me from their lives overnight. I eventually found a crappy apartment with what little money I had, and for a while I didn't even think about my family. I was just trying to survive. It wasn't easy, but at least I was out of that house. I didn't have to deal with their accusations anymore. I didn't have to deal with Leah smirking at me like she won some kind of twisted game. For a few months, things were quiet. I didn't hear from my parents at all. Honestly, part of me hoped that after some time had passed, they'd realize they were wrong, that Leah was lying, and they'd reach out to apologize. But nope, nothing. But then, out of nowhere, I get a message from Leah's ex-boyfriend. Now, I hadn't thought about Leah in a long time. I mean, why would I? She wasn't a part of my life anymore, and I was honestly happier that way. So when this guy messages me, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but what he told me, that changed everything. Apparently, Leah had gotten drunk one night, like really drunk. And in the middle of some argument with her boyfriend, she just spilled everything. She admitted that she had lied about me all those years ago. Not just little lies either. She confessed that she made up the whole story about me being a prostitute and a drug addict because she was jealous of me. And get this, she was jealous because she thought I was getting too much attention from boys. I sat there staring at my phone, trying to process what I just read. My mind was racing. All that time, all those years of my life being destroyed, my family treating me like I was trash, all because Leah was jealous of some teenage crap? I didn't even know how to feel. Part of me wanted to laugh at how ridiculous it was, but mostly, I was just angry. Like, really angry. I thought back to all the times I'd tried to defend myself, all the times I begged my dad and stepmom to believe me, all the nights I cried in my room, feeling like my entire family had turned against me for something I didn't even do. And for what? Because Leah couldn't handle me getting attention? It was unreal. So now I had this confession, right? I had proof that Leah had been lying the whole time. Her ex-boyfriend even said he'd back me up if I wanted to confront her or tell my parents. But honestly, I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to run straight to my dad's house and throw it in their faces like, "See, I told you I wasn't lying." But another part of me was just tired. Tired of the whole situation. Tired of trying to get them to see the truth when they clearly didn't care enough to figure it out on their own. I thought about it for a few days, trying to decide what to do. In the end, I didn't confront Leah. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't do anything. What would it change? Sure, I could show them the proof and maybe they'd apologize, but would that really make up for everything they'd put me through? Would it bring back the years I lost? The answer was no, so I let it go. I blocked Leah's ex-boyfriend's number, deleted the message, and moved on. Or at least, I tried to. The truth is, even though I didn't do anything with the confession, it still weighed on me. It felt like this giant piece of unfinished business that I couldn't just forget about. Every time I thought I was done with it, something would remind me of my family, and the anger would come rushing back. It's hard to explain, but it was like there was this part of me that still wanted justice, even though I knew I'd never get it. Around that time, I had started building a new life. I had a decent job, an apartment that wasn't great, but was mine, and I had met someone. His name was Kyle, and he was everything I needed. He was kind, supportive, and most importantly, he didn't come with any of the baggage that my family did. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had something good in my life. Kyle knew about my family situation. I didn't tell him everything, but he knew enough to understand why I wasn't close to them. He didn't push me to talk about it, which I appreciated. He got that I was trying to move on, and he was just happy to be a part of that. We'd been dating for about a year when the whole Leah confession thing happened, and Kyle was my rock through all of it. But even with his support, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still unresolved. My parents hadn't reached out to me since I left. Not once. No calls, no texts, nothing. And as much as I wanted to pretend I didn't care, I did. I hated that I cared, but I couldn't help it. They were my family, and even though they'd hurt me, I still wanted some kind of closure. I just didn't know how to get it. Then, out of the blue, my dad calls me. At first, I didn't even recognize the number because it had been so long since I'd heard from him. When I answered, there was this awkward silence on the other end, like he didn't know what to say. Finally, he cleared his throat and said, "We need to talk." Now, if this had been a few years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to have this conversation. I would have been ready to lay everything out and demand an apology. But now, I didn't know if I even wanted to hear what he had to say. Still, curiosity got the best of me, so I agreed to meet him for coffee. When we met up, it was like seeing a stranger. My dad looked older, more tired than I remembered. And there was this awkward tension between us that made the whole situation even weirder. We made small talk for a bit. Nothing important, just catching up. Then finally he got to the point. He told me that Leah had confessed to him. She had told him everything about the lies, the jealousy, all of it. And just like that, all the anger I'd been holding on to came rushing back. He said he was sorry. He said he couldn't believe he had been so blind, that he regretted everything, and that he wished he had listened to me. But here's the thing. I didn't feel any better hearing it. An apology wasn't going to fix what he'd done. It wasn't going to make up for the fact that he had abandoned me when I needed him the most. And as much as he wanted to make things right, I knew it was too late for that. I told him I appreciated the apology, but I wasn't sure I could ever forgive him. And you know what? He didn't even fight me on it. He just nodded like he knew he had lost me. And we sat there in silence for a while. When we finally said goodbye, it felt final. Like we both knew this was the last time we'd speak. And that was it. No big confrontation, no dramatic reunion, just a quiet goodbye. So, fast forward a couple of years, and things are finally going well for me. I've moved on from all the family drama, or at least I thought I had. I'm engaged to Kyle, and we're planning our wedding. Everything should be perfect, right? Well, of course, it's never that easy when it comes to family. I made the decision pretty early on that I wasn't going to invite Leah to the wedding. I mean, after everything she put me through, why would I? I didn't want that kind of negativity around me on such an important day. Kyle agreed, and it felt like a weight off my shoulders to know I didn't have to deal with Leah's manipulative crap anymore. So we're sending out invites, making plans, everything's going smoothly. I even decided to invite my dad and stepmom because, despite all the pain from the past, part of me wanted them there. They had apologized, and I guess a small part of me was still holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could be a family again. But of course, nothing with my family ever goes according to plan. It started with a phone call from my dad. I remember looking at the screen, seeing his name pop up, and feeling a weird mix of excitement and dread. I thought maybe he was calling to talk about the wedding. Maybe he wanted to help or something. I don't know. I guess I was still holding out hope that we could have a normal relationship. Boy, was I wrong. "Hey," he said, his voice sounding weirdly stiff, like he was trying too hard to keep things casual. "We need to talk about the wedding." I immediately got this sinking feeling in my stomach. I could tell something was off, but I tried to play it cool. Yeah? What's up? There was this long pause on the other end of the line, and I could hear him take a deep breath. That's when I knew whatever was coming next wasn't going to be good. Leah's been asking why she didn't get an invite, he said. I literally felt my whole body tense up. Of course, this was about Leah. It was always about Leah. She's not invited, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm not having her at my wedding, Dad. That's when he hit me with it. If Leah's not invited, I can't come either. I just sat there for a second, stunned. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. My dad was giving me an ultimatum. Invite the sister who destroyed my life, or he wouldn't be there. I couldn't even find words at first. I mean, how was that fair? I get that he didn't want to choose between his kids, but Leah wasn't just any sibling who I had a little falling out with. She literally ruined my entire relationship with my family, and he expected me to forgive her and have her at my wedding. No way. Are you serious right now? I finally managed to say. I could feel my voice shaking, and not from sadness, just pure anger. You have to understand, he said, sounding way too calm for someone who just dropped a huge demand on his daughter. Leah's really sorry. She's been trying to make things right. That's when I lost it. Trying to make things right? Are you kidding me? She ruined my life, Dad. She lied about me being a prostitute and a drug addict, and you believed her. And now you're saying I have to invite her to my wedding like none of that ever happened? He tried to calm me down, saying something about how family should stick together and how Leah had changed, but I wasn't hearing any of it. I was so angry I could barely see straight. It wasn't just about Leah at this point. It was about my dad, once again, choosing her over me. It was like no matter what she did, she was still the golden child, and I was the one who had to make all the compromises. I finally told him, if you can't come to my wedding without her, then don't bother coming at all. I hung up the phone before he could say anything else. I was shaking, trying to hold back tears because honestly, as mad as I was, it still hurt. I had really thought that after all this time, we could have a decent relationship. But here we were again, me on the outside, and Leah getting all the consideration. It felt like nothing had changed. When I told Kyle what happened, he was furious. He said he couldn't believe my dad would put me in that position and that I didn't owe Leah anything. You deserve better than this, he kept saying. And honestly, he was right. I did deserve better. I didn't deserve to have my own wedding turned into some kind of family drama because my dad couldn't handle the idea of choosing sides. Over the next few days, I got a bunch of messages from my stepmom, all saying the same thing. Please reconsider. Leah is family. She's sorry. Blah, blah, blah. I ignored every single one. I wasn't backing down. This was my wedding, and I wasn't about to let Leah ruin it just like she ruined everything else. But then, a couple of weeks later, my dad showed up at my apartment. I wasn't expecting him, and when I opened the door, I almost slammed it right back in his face. But he looked so tired, like he hadn't slept in days, and part of me wanted to hear what he had to say. I'm not here to fight, he said as soon as I opened the door. I just want to talk. I let him in, and we sat down. For a minute, neither of us said anything. The silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Finally, he spoke. I know I've made mistakes, he said, looking down at his hands like he couldn't even face me. But I'm trying to make things right. I don't want to lose you. I didn't say anything. I was too angry to trust myself to speak. I know Leah hurt you, he went on. I know that, and I'm not asking you to forgive her, but she's still my daughter. I can't just cut her out. I felt like screaming. Why was it always about Leah? Why couldn't he see that I was the one who had been hurt, that I was the one who deserved his support? I'm not asking you to cut her out, Dad, I finally said. I'm just asking you to choose me for once. I've spent my whole life being second to her, and if you can't show up for me on the most important day of my life without dragging her along, then maybe you don't deserve to be there. He didn't say anything after that. He just nodded, got up, and left, and that was it. He didn't come to my wedding. Neither did my stepmom. Leah, of course, wasn't invited, and honestly, it hurt. It hurt a lot. But at the same time, it felt like the first time in my life I had truly stood up for myself. The wedding day came and went, and let me tell you, it was the best day of my life, even without my dad and stepmom there. I didn't think I'd feel that way, honestly. I thought not having them would put a dark cloud over the whole thing. But when I walked down the aisle with Kyle's brother, surrounded by people who actually cared about me, I realized something. I didn't need them. I'd spent so long trying to get my dad to choose me, to see my worth. But in that moment, I knew I was better off without his conditional love. Kyle looked amazing, and when I saw him standing at the altar, any stress or anger I had melted away. I wasn't thinking about Leah or my dad. or any of the drama that had consumed me for so long. I was just thinking about my future and how I was finally free from all the baggage that came with my family. After the wedding, things were quiet for a while. I didn't hear from my dad, and honestly, I didn't expect to. He made his choice when he decided that Leah's feelings were more important than mine, and I wasn't about to chase after him. I had Kyle, his family, and our friends. They were more of a family to me than my own ever was. But of course, nothing ever stays quiet for long when it comes to my family. About a month after the wedding, I got a message from my stepmom. It was this long, rambling text about how they missed me and wanted to work things out. She went on about how Leah was sorry and how I should just let it go for the sake of the family. I almost laughed when I read it. After everything that had happened, they still didn't get it. They still thought this was something that could just be swept under the rug, like years of lies and manipulation were no big deal. Like I should just forgive Leah because she said she was sorry. But here's the thing. She never even said sorry to me. She never once reached out, never apologized, never even acknowledged the pain she caused. And they still expected me to just move on? I ignored the message at first. I didn't want to deal with it. I thought maybe if I just didn't respond, they'd get the hint and leave me alone. But a week later, I got another one. This time from my dad. It was short and to the point. "We miss you. Let's talk." Part of me wanted to scream, why was I always the one who had to fix things? Why was it on me to reach out and make peace when they were the ones who hurt me? I had given them chance after chance, and every time they had let me down. I was done being the one to make things right. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to go back to pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. So I decided to cut them off completely. I blocked their numbers, deleted them from social media, and told myself that this was it. No more reaching out. No more second chances. It was hard at first because deep down, I still wanted to believe that maybe, somehow, they would change. Maybe my dad would finally see that I deserved better. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it wasn't going to happen. He was never going to choose me. He had made that clear when he gave me that ultimatum about Leah. Kyle was incredibly supportive through all of this. He told me over and over again that I was making the right decision, that I didn't owe them anything, and that I deserved to be happy without their toxic influence in my life. And he was right. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own happiness. I wasn't waiting for my dad's approval or Leah's fake apology. I was living for me, and it felt freeing. But of course, it didn't stop there. My dad found out I had blocked him, and that's when the emails started. Long, emotional emails about how I was tearing the family apart and how my refusal to forgive Leah was breaking his heart. He went on about how family is supposed to stick together no matter what, and how I was being unfair to Leah by not giving her a chance to make things right. I almost didn't respond. I wanted to just delete the email and be done with it, but something in me snapped. I was tired of being the villain in their story. Tired of being the one who was expected to forgive and forget while they got to move on like nothing happened. So I wrote back. I told my dad everything I had been holding in for years. I told him how hurt I was, that he never believed me, how abandoned I felt when he chose Leah's lies over me, how he let me suffer for something I didn't do. I told him that Leah had ruined my life, and that no amount of sorry was going to fix that. I told him that I didn't want to be a part of their family anymore, because clearly, I never really was. They had chosen Leah, and that was fine. But I wasn't going to keep pretending that I could just get over it and move on. It felt good to get it all out, even though I knew it wouldn't change anything. My dad didn't respond to the email, and honestly, I didn't expect him to. He had made his choice a long time ago, and I had finally made mine. Cutting them off was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was also one of the best decisions I've ever made. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living in the shadow of Leah's lies. I wasn't chasing after my dad's approval or trying to fix a family that was never really there for me. I was free. Kyle and I are doing great now. We're starting to think about the future, maybe even having kids one day, and I know that whatever happens, I won't let the past define me. I have a family now, a real one, with people who actually love and support me. And that's more than enough. So yeah, cutting them off wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Sometimes you have to let go of the people who hurt you, even if they're family, because at the end of the day, your peace is more important than their expectations. And honestly, I've never been happier. Update 1. So, about a year after cutting off my family, I thought I was done with them. I really did. Life was good. Great, even. I had Kyle, we were talking about getting a place together, and for once, I wasn't waking up every day stressed out about family drama. It was like I'd finally hit this point where I could just be happy. But then, out of nowhere, I got hit with some news I never saw coming. One day I was scrolling through social media just minding my business, when I got a message from an old mutual friend of Leah's. We hadn't talked in forever, so I wasn't sure why they were reaching out. At first I thought maybe they were just checking in or something, but nope. The message was simple and straight to the point. Hey, did you hear about Leah? Now let me tell you, that's not the kind of message you ignore, no matter how much you want to stay out of family business. So even though every part of me was screaming, don't get involved, I replied, no, what happened? The next message hit me like a brick. She's in rehab. She got hooked on drugs and tried to kill herself. I remember just staring at my phone, trying to process what I had just read. Leah, rehab, suicide attempt? It didn't make sense. Leah had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who everyone believed. She was the one who ruined my life with her lies, and now this? Apparently, after I cut ties with my family, things had started to fall apart for Leah. She got in with the wrong crowd, started experimenting with drugs, and it escalated fast. From what I was told, it wasn't just some light partying, it was hardcore. Pills, heroin, whatever she could get her hands on. It got so bad that she hit rock bottom and tried to take her own life. Her parents, my dad and stepmom, had found her just in time. They rushed her to the hospital, and after she recovered physically, they checked her into a rehab facility. They were keeping it hush-hush, trying to protect her reputation. But word got out. Small towns, gossip travels fast. I sat there, reading through the messages, feeling this weird mix of emotions. On one hand, I felt bad. I wouldn't wish something like that on anyone. I didn't want Leah dead, and hearing that she tried to end her life was, well, it was hard to wrap my head around. But on the other hand, a part of me couldn't help but think, karma. It sounds harsh, I know. But after everything Leah put me through, after she tore apart my relationship with my family and lied about me for years, it was hard not to feel like this was some kind of cosmic payback. I mean, she had turned my life upside down, and now, her perfect little world had crumbled. It was almost like the universe was balancing things out. I didn't reach out to my family after hearing the news. I wasn't about to step back into that mess no matter how bad things had gotten for Leah. They made their choice when they believed her lies and treated me like trash. I had no intention of opening that door again just because things had gone south for them. A few days later, I got another message from the same mutual friend. They told me that my dad and stepmom were struggling with Leah's rehab and wanted to reach out to me. They thought maybe I could help somehow, that I could be there for the family during this tough time. I couldn't believe the nerve. After everything they did, choosing Leah over me, believing her lies, cutting me out, they wanted me to come back and play happy family because Leah had hit rock bottom? No way. I sat there for a long time, staring at the message, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell them exactly where they could shove their request for help. But another part of me just didn't care anymore. I didn't need their validation. I didn't need to yell or get angry. I had moved on, and I wasn't going to let them pull me back into their chaos. So I didn't respond. I blocked the mutual friend and kept living my life.